Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the all-new Subaru WRX STI and how it is going to be extremely controversial. With that being said, we're going to get into the details we know so far, a little bit of speculation, and then my personal opinions on the car. Let's get into the video. So let's talk about this new Subaru WRX STI. What we know so far is that it is most likely not going to be an internal combustion engine car. Subaru basically released a statement that they are going to be focusing purely on EVs, and they don't want to build a WRX STI that has an internal combustion engine, which is pretty disappointing, but well, it's a sign of the times. And again, Subaru said they're basically focusing more and more on EVs. Right now we have the Subaru Crosstrek Hybrid, which is their only like semi, right? It's a hybrid, it's not a full EV. And then we have the new Subaru Solterra that's coming out. That's a full EV. So there's going to be two cars in their lineup currently that basically use EV technology. But most of their cars still just use regular naturally aspirated flat four cylinders. Some of them have turbocharged flat four cylinders. And so yeah, it's kind of their general shift. And I guess into a little bit of speculation, there's two different routes that could happen. So the first route that Subaru keeps kind of implying is that this is just the WRX STI is going to come out at a much later date, but it's going to be fully electric. It's not going to have any sort of internal combustion engine. And again, that's what they're pushing for right now, which would be a huge shift from what they're doing right now, because if it's fully electric, that means it can only be an automatic. It can't be a manual, right? Because it's an EV. And then on top of that, it's just going to be completely different from a weight distribution standpoint and also from a weight standpoint as well. Electric cars are just a lot heavier than internal combustion engine cars. And just the whole driving experience is going to be so much different, right? So it's going to be called a WRX STI, right? If it was a fully electric car, but it's not really going to be a WRX STI, if that makes sense. Now, the other approach that they could take, that I think that they should take if they really want to start pushing this EV stuff, and what I think other automakers need to like come to realize, is they should do a hybrid WRX STI. Now that still would make a lot of STI fans upset, because most of them just want a more powerful turbocharged engine under the hood. That's what everyone's been hoping for, is that Subaru releases like a 400 horsepower WRX STI. And if they did that, by the way, especially in today's market, all-wheel drive manual transmission car with 400 horsepower that is not super heavy, it would sell like crazy. Like they'd be sold out, seriously, especially in today's market. And that's what people are hoping. But you know, if they did the same thing where it was around 400 horsepower and it was a hybrid and got better fuel economy, right, but still manual transmission, if they can make the manual transmission work with the hybrid system, then people would still buy it, and it actually might appeal to a new buyer base, because you have people that'll buy it for the performance, because if it's still around that 400 horsepower mark, that's still amazing, you know, even though it'd weigh a little bit more being a hybrid. But then on top of that, you're going to have buyers that are going to actually want to buy this as like a daily driver, because they're going to be like, oh, it actually gets good fuel economy, because the last generation STI wasn't great from a fuel economy standpoint, so a hybrid would actually help out. And again, I think this is the least likely scenario, but I think that's a scenario that Subaru should take, and again, other automakers need to do that. They need to focus more on hybrids and not fully electric vehicles, because it's easier to get people to adopt a hybrid than a fully electric vehicle. I've mentioned this in other videos where you just look at it, right? So if someone right now is driving a internal combustion engine car, what they're used to is being able to just go to a gas station and fill up, right? They pay a certain amount of money, they fill up their car, and that's that. Whereas if you take that same person and expect them to completely change the dynamics of owning a car where it's electric, to where instead of just being able to go and quickly fill it up, you then have to sit at a charging station, which there's not as many charging stations as there are fuel pumps, and they have to sit there for, you know, at least 30 minutes, an hour for mostly charging station. And fast charging is kind of bringing those charging times down, but still it's a completely different process. And you're saying, hey, by the way, so it's going to take longer for you to get the range you want out of this car. And then on top of that, you're also going to be kind of at a disadvantage, because there's not going to be as many stations. Most people are going to be like, no, I don't want to make that switch. But if you said, hey, you're still going to be using that same gas pump, but you're going to have this electric component, that means you're not going to have to use the gas pump as often. And on top of that, right, if they made it like, you know, plug-in hybrids and everything that we have out nowadays, it's like, oh, if you want to plug it in and charge it and not use gas, you also have that option. So I think that's a lot easier to push people towards. And the reason I kind of went off on that tangent is, I guess, getting the opinion section. That's why I think that Subaru really needs to just very, very heavily consider doing a hybrid STI, because if they go all electric, Like, it's just, that's such a big jump for Subaru fans that I just don't think it's going to work. I don't think that they're going to get the demand that they think they're going to get for the car, even though they're trying to do this all electric thing. And so overall, what we know so far information-wise, I think makes the new STI potentially a massive, massive flop. Especially compared to other cars that are out in the market right now that people would be able to cross-shop this with, because you can still get a Hyundai Veloster N, which is a fun front-wheel drive manual transmission car. The new Honda Civic Type R is coming out, and that most likely is not going to have any sort of electric powering to it. It's probably just going to be a turbocharged 4-cylinder manual transmission. Tons of fun. And then also with Hyundai, you've got the new Elantra N, same thing. It's front-wheel drive manual transmission. So you have all these fun cars that are more driver oriented. And then it's like, if Subaru releases this fully electric STI, people are going to be like, yeah, no, I'm just going to go, even though those ones are all front wheel drive, enthusiasts would rather have that than a fully electric car that doesn't even have a manual transmission. So I guess the Ben Hardy opinion on this is that don't do a fully electric STI, Subaru. That is a very dumb decision. There's not enough buyers right now in the US looking for EV cars, especially performance EV cars like that. There's just not really a market for that right now. But there is a market for hybrids. So if Subaru really wants this new STI to be successful, just do a hybrid. It'll get better gas mileage. That's still technically going to be better for the planet. And people will actually buy the car. So it won't be a bunch of wasted engineering and all the stuff that goes into producing a car. And so, yeah, hopefully Subaru does a shift and changes their mind and we get a real STI rather than something with the STI name on it, right? Like what Ford did with the Mustang Mach-E, right? With the STI name on it that isn't truly an STI. I want you guys to let me know what you think about this, and if, you know, what route you think is the best to go. Should Subaru, you know, just completely step back and just do a turbocharged engine, or would you be okay with a hybrid, or would you be okay with a fully, you know, electric STI? And yeah, I'll see you guys.